Hi guys, my name's Kristen, and today I'm going to be sharing a video where I talk about why I am sort of done shipping kidnap to love romances. I recently read the book A Promise of Fire by Amanda Boucher. I got this from the library on my Overdrive app. While there were aspects of the book that I did enjoy, specifically the sort of fantasy plot and the overall plot of the novel I quite liked, and I think I'm going to continue reading the series. The relationship, however, really bothered me, and it kind of pushed me over the edge to where I've sort of for months now been less and less inclined to enjoy the kidnapping trope, to where now I'm just sort of kind of drawn into the love aspect or the romance and relationship component of these types of books. I want to make it really clear that I think that the sort of dark romance erotica version of this has its place, and I have absolutely no judgment with people enjoying that as a sort of fantasy fulfillment component. That's not what I'm talking about. It's more that I am sort of done romanticizing the relationship that develops out of, or the loving relationship that develops out of this kidnapping situation. This book is a fantasy romance that follows Kat, our main character, who has some magical abilities. She's also very much so in hiding, and her identity is held secret, at least at the beginning. This is set in a world where there are 3 different kingdoms, usually ruled by magical people. There are also non-magical people in the world called hoi polloi, and the magic component to the world is very based on Greek gods. The male lead in this novel is Griffin, who was a non-magical warlord. He recently overthrew the ruling magical family in his world, and he put his sister on the throne instead of himself. I'll get a little bit more into Griffin's personality traits and how that contributes to the unhealthiness of this relationship later, but I'll just say right out of the gate that the fact that he puts his sister on the throne is a plot device used to make him seem less of an alpha than he really is, and to make it seem like he is more compassionate and understanding of a person. But I digress. Some of Kat's skills are very coveted by rulers, and they're very rare. It's like one every 200 years pops up, and Griffin discovers not who she is, but what she is, and he kidnaps her. I felt pretty uncomfortable sort of immediately with this kidnapping setup. I think that it is a version of the hate to love romance that honestly I think we can be done with, or maybe it has its own plot points, but I feel like where we should be going with this in the future is that while maybe there is some sexual tension between the kidnapper and kidnappee, ultimately the kidnappee decides that they should not be with this person, and I would really like to see that done in the future. I think that there are better, healthier ways to do hate to love, and that these kidnapping to love versions of the hate to love romance trope should not be relationships that we admire, have starry eyes over, or romanticize in any way. Right from the start, it is very clear that Griffin and Kat have some sexual chemistry, and there is a lot of sexual tension between them. This is heightened by the fact that in order to keep Kat held captive, they use a magical rope to tie Griffin to Kat. Kat is someone who is obviously she has a lot of magical powers. She's a very strong person and character overall, and she knows how to take care of herself from like a self-defense, or like she's good with weapons. She knows what she's doing. But because he is both like stronger, faster, whatever, and this magical rope, she has no chances or ability to escape whatsoever. On top of that, Griffin is in a position of power, not just from a physical standpoint, but he is literally, not first in command in the country, but he is second in command. He's the beta of this whole country. There is no one that she could go to or shout out for help because he's the one in charge of this country. And from very early on, Griffin tries to lean into the sexual tension, and even the people that he's with, their sort of like friend group, they all try to keep acting like Kat should just be okay with this. They keep sort of wanting to be friends with her. They keep trying to draw her into the team component that they have going on. And they just sort of want her to get over the fact that she's been kidnapped and held against her will. And I can really appreciate Kat from the perspective of the fact that she does for a really long time try to hold strong on like, no, you've kidnapped me, this is wrong. This will have some minor light spoilers, so maybe I'll do like an earmuffs sort of situation anytime, and I'll say like spoilers, earmuffs, and then take them off when I'm done saying it. But this will have some sort of minor spoilers for where the relationship goes in this book. I think that the author tries really hard to get over this sort of kidnapping situation by making the main character Kat be very aware that she shouldn't want to be in this relationship. She's very strong, and I think we're supposed to see that and only be okay with the relationship because it's clear that they're meant to be. So here are a few things that bothered me about the development of this relationship. Griffin and his friends have absolutely no remorse whatsoever for having kidnapped Kat. Even when, brief little spoilers, even when they're like friends and she sort of decides that she is going to work for them of her own free will. Okay, spoilers. Even then, they still never apologize for having put Kat in this situation. They never admit that what they did was wrong. In fact, Griffin remains very self-righteous about his right to have kidnapped Kat because he is a leader. I think he almost outright says he would do it again because it benefits the greater good of his country. So I don't like that there was no remorse whatsoever. I don't think that leads to a healthy relationship that we should want to ship. Griffin is also very much so an alpha personality, although the author does try to do things like literally have his position within the country be called beta Synta. He is very much so an alpha man, and because of that there is a lot of ownership and possession over Kat, despite the fact that she is a really strong, dominant alpha character and personality herself. He very much so uses terms like, you're mine, I own you, you were made for me, and those really rubbed me the wrong way. He was also extremely jealous, while his team is sort of trying to befriend Kat and she is reciprocating that friendship anytime the other guys are literally near her. Even when Griffin puts her in a situation like he switches the rope to one of the other guys so he can go do something, he then comes back and is extremely aggressively jealous about it long before there are reciprocated romantic feelings from Kat's perspective. Over time, the sort of sexual tension and chemistry builds, and brief spoilers, they start kissing at various times. Like Griffin and Kat will be in a situation where they'll be kissing, and then Kat will stop it and say no, this isn't what I want. There is even a situation where Kat expressly removes consent. They have kissed and she stops it and then says, do not kiss me again. And he says, why not? You abducted me. You kept me tied up. You coerced me into working for you. I don't want to be with you. So he actually just says in response to that, you're lying. So there's multiple things to dissect here. She expressly removes consent. He questions that, and I will say, after she says, do not try to do this again, he does. Additionally, there is sort of some awareness on Kat's part that she should not want to be in this relationship, and I will say that I like that aspect of it was maybe done a little bit better than some of the other kidnapping hate-to-loves that I have seen. While Kat is very conscious of sort of her attraction to Griffin and the chemistry and the way he makes her feel inside, she does maintain for quite a long time I should not want this, and she does sort of resist the relationship for a very long time. Eventually, camaraderie is sort of built between her and Griffin and the characters, and it's because at a certain point they start being chased by, let's say, a common enemy. So basically, people from Kat's past sort of learn where she is and start chasing them and trying to attack them. This allows the men to play more of a protective role over Kat, which is supposed to make us, I think, or Kat, feel indebted to them, or, oh look, they actually care about her, that sort of thing. While the feelings over time change and grow and develop, I felt really resistant and I felt really uncomfortable with the relationship and was not really getting sucked into it the way that I normally get sucked into the relationships in romantic plots because of all of these clear, uncomfortable red flags. If you're interested in seeing more about the kidnapping to love trope in the setting of film, there is a great video, which I will link down below, by the pop culture detective, where he goes through this trope, a lot of the red flags. He talks a lot about sort of the abuse components of these and how it has been portrayed kind of to a scary extent in film over the years. So I definitely recommend checking out that video if you're interested. The kidnapping to love trope is similar, but not always exactly the same as the Beauty and the Beast retelling setup of sort of like Stockholm Syndrome. There is one Beauty and the Beast retelling that I kind of want to mention here because it was one of the only Beauty and the Beast retellings where I have actually seen the component of sort of abuse or like Stockholm Syndrome, without calling it that, addressed. And that was the book Hunted by Megan Spooner. This follows a typical Beauty and the Beast arc. So at some point she gets away or returns back home, but it's really clear at this point that she misses and cares for the Beast character. How it was addressed, I thought, was actually really well done, where a friend of hers actually tries to have a conversation with her about this in a very non-judgmental way. The friend essentially tells our main character about a different relationship that she knows of where the woman was in an abusive situation, by knowing that maybe she shouldn't still be with that person, she still is, and feels really attached to her abuser. While the friend doesn't know the exact situation that the Beauty character was in, she can see that everyone knows she was being held hostage. The friend has also sort of picked up on the fact that Beauty has mixed feelings about the Beast character and may in fact have strong attachment to the Beast character. And the friend tries to talk to her about that and say, like, I understand, I've seen something like this before. Do you think perhaps this is what's happening in your situation? And while it isn't exactly the same, it is fairly similar. But I really appreciated that it was at least addressed. I'm not going to say that I'm never going to read a Kidnap to Love book ever again, or even a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm going to stop seeing these relationships as being romantic and wanting the characters to wind up together, or seeing it as romantic in any way, shape, or form, because they're not. It's an abusive situation. I think that there is absolutely benefit to seeing abusive relationships depicted in books or films, but I think where I've decided to draw the line is seeing that as a relationship that is romantic. More and more in my reading, especially as I am starting to acknowledge that I enjoy reading the romance subplots in books, or I'm actually reading full romance novels all together, I am less and less inclined to want to ship those unhealthy, toxic relationships. Don't get me wrong, I too get caught up in the romance of these relationships as they're depicted, and I start shipping them. So this is sort of like a declaration to myself, or like putting a line in the sand to myself, of realizing that this isn't what I want to ship anymore, and being a little bit stronger and not getting sucked in the way that the author clearly wants us to be. And I hope that more and more younger readers and other readers start to acknowledge that some of these relationships are not healthy. I am definitely going to try to point out books or relationships when I see them in books as being, no, I think this is kind of toxic, I think this is unhealthy. Here are some of the red flags that I think you could see and how that would relate maybe in a real world setting. What do you think? Does the kidnapping hate-love situation work for you? And are there ones where you think some of these negative components are actually addressed and it does feel like a healthy relationship? Or are there some that you just ship anyway because the authors have manipulated our feelings into shipping that relationship? Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button so you can get notifications when I post future videos. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day. Bye.